Hello everybody, welcome to the Conscious Collaboration. My name is Jarrod. Today's video is going to be an important video, a video that I want to try and cover to the best of my ability and do it tactfully, and hopefully you find it beneficial and it's super helpful to you. Today we are going to talk about recognizing a credible ayahuasca retreat provider or ceremony. So this is something that I mentioned just before, I think is super important, very, very important actually. This space, the ayahuasca space, is a very interesting space. We have this beautiful, powerful tradition, this beautiful, powerful ancient medicine that we are lucky enough to work with, that has become extremely popular. It's become extremely popular because for a lot of people it works. It works on many different facets of our life, our spiritual body, energetic body, our physical body as well. And with the way that the world is at this point in time, with the challenges that we are having, a huge rise in depression, a huge rise in anxiety, a huge rise in people feeling disconnected, a huge rise in people looking for genuine personal growth, it's quite obvious why the rise in something like ayahuasca, a beautiful traditional plant medicine, is becoming more and more popular as people look for alternatives from the ones that are laid out in the systems that we have in our society at the moment. And so it's very understandable that there is this rise in popularity. Now, with that rise in popularity and a lot of people coming to work with it, there's obviously a lot more providers popping up here, there and everywhere. There's a lot of information out there. It can be really confusing. There's a lot of people giving opinions, a lot of people doing things one way, a lot of people doing things another way. So it's very understandable that it can be quite confusing for people when they are coming into it. So we have like shamans who are practicing the medicine, shamans coming into the Western world as well and sharing their medicine with us, which is absolutely beautiful, super powerful. There's also a lot of facilitators sort of starting to pop up, sometimes even serving medicine. This is one of the things to really sort of look out for, so people sort of serving medicine without huge amounts of experience. There's also the other thing is that people are also looking for places to be able to do this medicine and sometimes not really educating themselves first to really understand what is the right place for me, or how do I recognize a credible place to go do the work. There's also the other thing I see people doing also is sort of just going to a place for convenience, which I don't necessarily think is the right reason. So, just going to a place because it's close to where you live and you don't have to travel too far. So the importance of really understanding what a credible provider is, I think, is paramount. It's super essential. We have to look at it from this perspective that what we are going into when we are going to work with ayahuasca, we are doing nothing less than going into spiritual surgery. So if we're going into spiritual surgery, we want to make sure that the surgeon who is working on us or working with us knows exactly what they're doing, is in the utmost integrity, and also you're doing the work from a place of care, from love, from support. It's really, really important. And I just don't think that we should be taking this any more lightly than that it is spiritual surgery. So it's important we have an understanding of the people who are doing the work for us and helping us with the beautiful medicine work. It's really important that you're also really physically cared for throughout this process as well. All parts of it, the preparation, the participation, and also the integration, because there's so many different factors and there's so many moving parts to the medicine work as well. The other thing why I think it's important to be able to recognize a credible provider is it's also making sure that you're going to get the most out of the work. You're going to get the absolute most out of going into these ceremonies, because for a lot of people there can be a lot there's a lot on the line here. A lot of people in a place of desperation and need a lot of help. So if we're going to somewhere that's going to give you the best ability to get the most out of the work, the better. So it is a very interesting space as a whole. You know, I do not want to scare anyone with this information, but there is definitely a lot of subpar providers out there at the moment. And the challenging, scary thing with that is that we're sort of seeing people come to the medicine work, you know, serving ayahuasca after just drinking ayahuasca for themselves for 2 or 3 years. I think this is risky. I think this is dangerous. Just simply, you just don't have the experience to be able to navigate those spaces. Some of the questions I like to ask myself as well when you do have people serving something super powerful like ayahuasca after a very short period of time, what is the driving force? What is the motivator? Because I can assure you a lot of the time, any person who has a very deep respect for the medicine also has a very deep respect for the tradition that goes behind it, and also has a deep respect for what needs to go into being able to serve that medicine as well. So therefore they can sort of generally realize that it's going to take a long period of time to be able to correctly navigate that space. So yeah, I think these are really important things to sort of point out. So I talk about those things. so to hopefully give you a bit of an insight in regards to the space. But I also want to start diving into in this video as well, like the things to look out for or the things to look for, either way. So I think both these things, if you can set your standard really high and set your expectations really high when it comes to who you're doing the medicine work with, then the likelihood of you doing it in a good place through understanding and through education, the likelihood of you having a really positive experience is substantially higher. So first things first, I think in the things to look out for and the things to look for is the legality of the place that you're doing it. So I always think that it is best to do it in a place where it is legal and the people can operate out in the open. Now I know this isn't necessarily accessible for all people. I know that in some circumstances you need to do it in a place where it is illegal. I'm going to be like fully transparent here. The place where I did it first, in Australia, it was illegal, but I was super lucky that I got to do it with a shaman, as a curandera who had practice in the tradition, and their operation was absolutely seamless. But I also do have a Facebook page in Australia in regards to ayahuasca, and I am seeing a lot of people like pop up who are just sort of serving medicine willy-nilly, you know. So I think when it comes to the whole legality thing, if you're doing it in a place where it is legal, that means that the operator has to operate out in the light, and they have to operate out where they are accountable for their actions, and they have to prove credibility for them to be able to operate successfully. So I just think when it comes to the legality thing, just proceed with caution. If you are going down the path of doing it in a place where it isn't legal, make sure that there is something being propped up. So in regards to, you know, reference or in regards to credibility, that you can, you know, gain a good understanding. So what I say by that, like if you have like a really big group of friends that have participated with this shaman beforehand, or you can do research on the shaman that is traveling there, whatever it might be as well. So I think things to look out for, definitely legality is important. The next thing I'm going to talk about, things to look out for or look for, is the provider's experience. So years serving the medicine. Going down the path of the Indigenous versus non-Indigenous shaman is a challenging conversation to have within this space, because there's lots of different opinions in regards to it. I personally think the gold standard is an Indigenous shaman, where the knowledge of the medicine work has been passed down through them from generation to generation. I think this is an excellent thing, an excellent way to experience the medicine, and the ceremonies are super powerful. But that is also not to say there are some non-Indigenous shamans out there that have been trained and have really devoted their life to serving the medicine. But I think the thing to look out for there is time and how long they've been serving the medicine. You know, so I do know of a couple of non-Indigenous shamans, but they, you know, devoted a huge amount of their time to learning the practice. And when I say a huge amount of time, like they've been drinking the medicine themselves for 10, 12, 15 years, or something along those lines, and learning over that period of time. it's something to be really wary of. And one thing I do hear is some medicine providers saying, oh, but I learned in this place for like 2 years and the shaman blessed me to do it and I'm doing it through him. You know, just use your logic here. Obviously more experience working in those deep, powerful spiritual planes is going to be super beneficial for you when it comes to actually working with the medicine. So in my opinion, the gold standard is definitely an Indigenous shaman, but definitely use some caution if you are going down a different path as well. Now this is also not to say that all Indigenous shamans are all shamans that are operating under a lineage are working perfectly as well, but we're going to cover some other things that hopefully you can look out for there as well when choosing the right place. So the other thing to look out for as well is the credibility counters. So I touched on this a little bit beforehand when we're talking about the legality of it. I think in this day and age, as they are growing in popularity, is to really look at those credibility counters. So when I say that, I talk about, you know, does the place have reviews? Do they have testimonials? Are they honest? Are they genuine? You know, something like Google is a really good way to go about it as well. And even them having a few like non-5 stars isn't necessarily a bad thing, but there's somewhere that you can read what other people's experiences are. Also looking at how many people are saying good things, you know, you can also search through Reddit. That's another really good way. Just like using Google search to type in the shaman's name, the retreat center's name, the provider's name, just really spending some time researching the person you are doing the medicine with, not just running off what the person is telling you. I think the more people are out in the open with it and the more people are saying good things and the more credibility they have, the better. It's also like, the real benefit with the whole credibility thing as well is that I think, I mentioned it before, the more they are out in the open, the more that, the higher the risk there is there for them. How does that make sense? So what I'm trying to say is like, if they're operating out in the open, they also have a lot higher likelihood of wanting to do very, very good work because it's super important to their retreat center, if that sort of makes sense. So they probably spend more time training, they probably spend more time making sure that people are cared for, probably spend more time making sure that you're supported throughout the whole process as well. The next thing as well is the credentials of the support there. So what I'm talking about there is like the facilitator. Does the facilitator have any training? Does the facilitator have a lot of exposure within ceremonies, for instance? Is there things like psychologists there potentially? Is there things in regards to safety? Is there medical staff, or do they do really good screening at the start? I think that's really important to look out for when looking for a credible place to work with ayahuasca. Now the other thing as well would be looking at the support as well. So how much support they're providing. So if they're giving you a heap of support in the preparation stages, you know, talking to you beforehand, you know, screening, making sure that you're good and healthy, making sure that you don't have any underlying health conditions or underlying mental conditions as well, that's a really good sign. It's a really good sign that they really care about the people who are going there. Also the support during, like how you're going to be looked after throughout the whole process, looking at their programs, looking at their, maybe how the days are laid out, is there support circles, is there word circles, that sort of thing is a really positive thing also. But also the integration stuff. When I talk about integration, are they giving you options or are they providing options to help you integrate the experience after? Now the reason why I talk about this a bit as well is I do a lot of integration work, and one thing that I'm seeing in the space a lot at the moment is these ayahuasca retreats are very, very good at bringing people in, getting them to participate, but the minute the ceremonies are over, the minute the retreat is over, they're just spitting them out the other side. And that is where the real work begins. And I'm doing a lot of integration work with people who just don't know how, understandably, because I didn't know how either, how to integrate these experiences into their life. So a really good thing to look out for is the amount of support they're giving you throughout that whole process as well. Now, something to look from a bit of a zoom out as well would be looking at what's the driving force, what's the reasoning behind why they have the place. places that talk a lot about helping people, places that talk a lot about supporting people, places that talk a lot about helping people through the process and helping people heal and grow, I think is a really positive thing as well. Look, I might rub a few people up the wrong way, but the places that are talking about them and how great healers they are, and it's all about flashy things. To me, looking at that from the outside, is it more about them or is it more about people who are going through the process? So, just trying to see also, is money a major driving force for them? So things to look for there, like the prices of the ceremonies, the price of the retreats as well. I think is really important. I think once you just spend a couple of hours researching, you're going to get a pretty good gauge of what's really expensive and what's not. It's also, are the providers, tapping into the mentality that you pay more, you get better healing? It doesn't apply with ayahuasca. So definitely try and look at what those driving forces are as well. The other thing as well is like, how long have they, like whether it be the facilitator or retreat operator, been operating, or also on the other side of that, seeing how long the shaman has been serving medicine for as well. I think that's a really good thing to look out for, or the experience that they have, for instance. Like, I'm going to touch on myself a little bit. I don't serve ayahuasca. I think it is should be left to shamans and the indigenous culture that practices it, but I do serve psilocybin and bufo in legal countries also, but I also have a lot of experience in the facilitation side of things as well. So, looking at the experience that people have, what they're bringing to the table, I think is super important. You don't want someone just learning and trying out to see if they're any good at it, and you being the test case. I don't think that's an ideal situation as well. Now, the next thing as well is, especially when it comes to ayahuasca, are they honouring the traditions? I think this is super important. It's incredibly important. How much reverence do they have for the traditions? How much do they talk about educating you in regards to the traditions that you are participating in the medicine work with? It's such a big thing. And I think it's something that can be a little bit overlooked, especially when people come from the Western world to come work with ayahuasca. Like, this is an absolute gift to be able to participate in these ceremonies, and it's an absolute gift to be able to have this knowledge shared with us, to be able to work with this beautiful plant medicine. Because traditionally it was just practiced in the Amazon basin. So, trying to just get a good understanding of how much they are honouring traditions, I think, is a really good key point to be able to look for a good, credible provider as well. The next thing as well, a bit of a telltale for me as well, is group sizes, especially when it comes to retreat settings. So, if a group size is like 30, 40, 50, there are some places that are doing up to 100 people. Got to really start asking yourself, what is the motivator there? Because I can assure you, when you're getting up to those sort of numbers, it's the only motivator for that, I think, is probably money. Especially if it's a centre that is there all the time. If it was a shaman popping into a place to do a ceremony and there's only a limited amount of time that they can possibly do it, sure, that might be a different thing. But if it's a centre and they're doing that amount of ceremonies, if it's a centre and they have that amount of participants, I'll be asking some questions there, because for the benefits of the guest, I can't see any in those huge sort of ceremonies anyway. I think, especially when you're getting closer to 70, 80, 90. So definitely something to look out for. Now, one of the last things I think to really sort of help you navigate the space of finding a good retreat provider is also, what does it mean to you? Making a list of what are the values that you want in a place, what are the alignments that you want in a place, what's important for you. Like, that's how seriously we should be taking it. This just shouldn't be close enough is good enough. I really don't believe that. It should be exactly what you want. Now, if that means you have to wait a little bit longer to be able to go participate, because you have to go down to Peru, or you have to go down to Colombia, or you have to go to Brazil, then you're better off sort of putting a savings plan in place for 6 to 8 months to make it happen in the right place, than just going somewhere, going to a subpar provider where you can potentially be in danger just because it's a little bit easier and a little bit cheaper as well. So making sure that you are finding a place that aligns with your values. And the easiest way to do that is to gain education on what's important to you and gain education on why you're going to do it, gain education on exactly what the whole space is. That's one of the goals I'm doing here with the Conscious Collaboration, is hopefully giving people really powerful information and education in regards to this as well. So just to close it off, I sort of touched on it a second ago. Don't settle for easy location. Don't settle for the cheapest price. Don't settle out of desperation. Just take your time, find the right place, and really sit into your intuition in regards to what is the right place for you. I really hope this video has given you a little bit of an insight. I hope this video has been super helpful to you as well. This is just my perspective, my opinion, and I just want to try and get this sort of message out there to help people make the right decisions for them in the right place for them, because it is just such beautiful work, it's such powerful work, and if we can do it right, if we can do it correctly for ourselves and have a really deep, powerful connection with the medicine, there's just so much healing and growth there, and there's just such an opportunity as a collective as well to really grow. So thank you so much for listening today. My name's Jarrod Allen. Thank you for watching the Conscious Collaboration. Please, if you can, support our videos, if you can subscribe to the channel, if you can like. Also, please feel free to comment in the comment section as well. It's super helpful and I really love the engagement. So thank you again.